It's all about the vision and the mission. Everything pales in comparison to the vision that I have for me and my family. And this, by the way, goes for your team. You have to paint a big enough vision that they can see their vision fitting inside of your vision. That's what enables the sacrifice in the meantime. People don't like sacrificing if they don't know nothing, if they don't know anything's coming at the other end. To me, it's just a matter of, hey, get really clear on like, this is where we're headed. This is the type of lifestyle that we're building and working toward. And in the meantime, we're going to have to make some uncomfortable decisions. We're going to have to sacrifice more than most people are willing to sacrifice. But if you want to live a life that nobody else can live, you have to do the things that nobody else is willing to do.
What is up, action taker? Welcome back to After Hours Entrepreneur, your guide to six figures. Today, we're joined by an awesome guest, Mr. Travis Chappell. He is the founder of Guestio.com, which is probably the best, the most premium way to find great guests to come on your podcast or to find great podcasts to be a guest on. Spectacular service. Worked with him and his team over there, growing something really massive, really massive. Now in this episode, Travis is sharing some insights that he has learned getting to that six-figure mark and how getting to six figures actually started to shift his mentality and some of the risks that he was willing to take as he saw a real vision, saw a vision for himself, for his family moving forward, one of which was joining a mastermind that cost $100,000 a year. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, that sounds insane. I'm trying to get to the 100K, or I'm just about there, or I'm just there. I could never drop 100K on a mastermind, but let's be frank. Don't let limiting beliefs hold you back. This episode is going to be doses of wisdom, some great stories, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to learn, and you're going to take action. So sit back, relax, and let's get into this episode with the one and only Travis Chappell. Travis, what's up?
Yo, what's up, Mark? How's it going, dude?
Travis, I'm living the dream, feeling good over here. And I appreciate you meeting me today. And I just want to give a shout out to Travis real quick, ladies and gentlemen, because this is what professionals do. His assistant shot me an email about 8 hours ago. I didn't see it. I was hosting a podcasting booth at a local Space Day event at a university. And so I just didn't see it. Despite the conflict, despite what's going on with Travis's life, he made it. He didn't say, Mark, flaking out, can't make it, didn't hear. So props to you, brother, for making it happen, man. A lot of respect.
Absolutely, brother. Happy to be here. Happy to help how I can.
Yeah, and I did want to highlight that because, you know, Travis, you've been in the game a minute. I want to talk about some of the people that you've surrounded yourself with. And I got to say, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised because I think that most people, when they have a conflict, just say, I'm going to blow something. I'll just blow this off because I have something else going on.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's been happening to me more and more recently, to be honest. Because like when I first got started, I would always like scoff when other people like had to, you know, cancel something or it was last minute. And I would get so frustrated. And then the tables turned and I started getting really busy. And I was like, oh, I see how that happens, you know? So, but no biggie, bro. I'm happy to make it happen when I can.
No doubt. Yeah. And I think that, you know, there's reasons to not do something and there's reasons to not do something, right? Last night I had an appointment that was real late. I still haven't updated my calendar. So people are booking stuff like really late with me, sometimes like 11 o'clock Eastern. Like time when it's like I'm going into my bedtime routine, reading and such. And somebody booked something really late and I was like, I do not feel like taking this meeting. I don't feel like doing it.
Yeah.
But then I said, who would I be? What kind of after hours entrepreneur would I be if I didn't show up? Because I didn't feel like it. No good.
That's fair, especially with a show name like that, bro. You can't not be available after hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. No kidding. No kidding. So are you a big reader, Travis? What's a book that you like, everyone must read?
Book about what?
Well, let's say entrepreneurship, making that first six-figure year. Like what's a book that's been really formative in you building up your platform and your business?
$100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. especially if you're in the podcasting, consulting kind of space. Expert Secrets, fantastic book. I rarely revisit books like over and over again, and that's one of the ones that I do that with. And same with $100 million offers. $100 million offers is applicable no matter what industry you're in. So, yeah, if you're talking about making your first 6 figures, really you're talking about making your first 7 figures. $100 million offers will get you there.
Yeah, I actually I didn't get all the way through $100 million offers, but I'm about halfway through it and I'm kind of bumping back and forth. That one's awesome. And then Brunson's Expert Secrets is in the Amazon cart, waiting for me to finish the 4 that I just got in the mail. So that's coming. That's coming soon, Russ. That's coming soon. So thanks for doing me that that little kind of impromptu intro, Travis, because I do want to kind of go back in time. All right, hop in the time machine, hop in the DeLorean, and go back just a little bit to when you were a young Travis. And the reason I want to go back here because one of the most common issues I think I run into when speaking to young entrepreneurs, just today I was at the Nova Southeastern University campus, a lot of young entrepreneurs there, a lot of people, and this was one of the most common issues that people were running into. Lack of clarity. So many different opportunities, so many different things that they could be doing, right? And I know you're doing door-to-door sales. You were successful there. You hit a 6-figure year there. But it wasn't really satisfying to you. It wasn't filling your cup.
Yeah. Yeah. The best thing about the 6-figure milestone is realizing that it's not that much money and then wanting to go get more of it. You know what I mean? It's a great milestone, and I'm not talking down to anybody at the 6-figure mark by any means, because if you're hitting 6 figures, you're already, what is that, top 5% of the world in terms of income earners. So you're doing, or actually, I think it's top 1% of the world, top 5% of the United States, if you're doing 6 figures. So there's nothing to shy away from. But if you're like me, you hit that mark and you're like, man, this is not what it was cracked up to be.
And it seems like if you're working in a job where like you're capped out at 50 or 60, 100K seems like Disneyland. It seems impossible.
Impossible. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it definitely seems impossible, man. Yep.
Yeah, but once you start building things out and you start getting some rhythm, you can actually, it stops being that elusive unicorn. And that's, I think, the first step in the journey, right, is getting that clarity on what am I good at? What's fun to me? What are people actually going to pay me to do?
Yeah, always, man. That's always the first step. I remember one of the first books I ever read when I was getting into personal development, because before I was never a reader. I hated reading growing up. I was literally like known as the person in my family who like, don't buy Travis a book because I'll never read it. And so it was a big deal for me to finish this book because it's a thick book. It's by Brendon Burchard. High Performance Habits is what it's called. And he's a high performance, coaches Fortune 500 CEOs, professional athletes, celebrities, stuff like that. And he basically breaks down, like, I think it's 6 of the top habits of high performing people. And I remember reading, and the first one that he said was something about clarity. And I remember thinking, like, at the time, I remember reading that and being like, well, that's a cheap one. That's a lame one to start with. You know what I mean? And I read the chapter and I was like, okay, that's really good. I do understand where he's coming from now. But now after fast forwarding 4 or 5 years of the journey for me, it's become more and more clear over time how important, just how crucial it is to gain clarity. Because, I mean, if you don't have clarity, man, you end up putting in all this work. It's like climbing a mountain. You put in all this work day after day, blood, sweat, and tears. You fall down, you got scraped up knees, you broke your arm, and then you fight and scrape and expend all your energy, and you get to the top of the mountain, and you look down, and you're like, oh, I wanted to be on top of that mountain, not this mountain. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the equivalent to not having clarity, is that you can bust your tail and do all of the things you're supposed to do, achieve what you set out to achieve, and then realize it's not even what you wanted. And I genuinely think, bro, a survey probably wouldn't even do the trick, because I think a lot of people have tricked themselves into thinking that they know what they want. I think that the vast majority of people in this world don't know what they want, myself included. I'm still trying to figure that out, all the time. I think it's a constant process of making sure that you have clarity and that you're aligned with your goals and that you're taking action toward those goals. The problem is this. The problem is that most people will not take action until they have clarity, and that's not the way to do it. Action provides clarity. It's not the other way around. And so a lot of people just sit on their hands, and that's how you end up being the same position at 20 as you are at 30, as you are at 40, as you are at 50. It's like you're only getting incrementally better in between those years because like, you know, you wanted to do something different, but you never took the time to figure out what it was, and you never took action in any direction, and you're just paralyzed with fear. It's like being dropped off in the middle of the ocean, and you know that there's an island within swimmable distance, but it's just out of your line of sight. What do? Well, that person who just sits on their hands and wait, they'll just tread water looking around them in all the different directions, and they'll never swim in a direction because they're like, what if I get it wrong? And then there's the other person who just takes off immediately and starts swimming. And when they start swimming, they realize after about 3 minutes of swimming that like, oh, well, this was the wrong way. And what do? They swim back to where they started, and they pick a different direction, and they swim that way. And enough times they start swimming out, they see the island, and they swim to safety. The person who just sits there and treads water, paralyzed by fear of taking action, is just drowning in the middle of the ocean. And it's the same thing with not taking action in your life, even, you know, despite lack of clarity. You're not going to see the whole path in front of you, but you can see the first step. Take that first step, and you'll get clarity on the next step.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's such a great analogy, and I've often felt that being incorrect is better than being indecisive. Because to your point, If you're indecisive, you're just treading water forever, like Galadriel in the middle of some sea in the middle of Middle Earth. Like, that's no good.
Yeah,
you got to swim in some direction, you know. So
yeah.
I like that's a really, really good way of putting it out there. So, you know, I want to kind of stick on this clarity mode for just another moment, okay? Because to your point, really important. Taking action, step one, right? But the other problem that we run into is we think, well, I've been swimming this way for so long. I've been working this angle for so long. I can't stop now. I can't turn back now. How do you know when it's time to shift course, Travis?
You figure that one out, bro. You come tell me. I wish I had more of like a calculated answer for this one.
Well, because there's these memes. You see a guy who's like digging for gold, and he like stops right before he gets the gold.
Yeah, 3 feet from gold, the famous Think and Grow Rich story. Yeah, I more often than not agree with that, because if I were to generalize and make a broad statement that would apply to more people rather than less people, I would say for most people, keep doing it longer, because most people don't have the pain threshold to push past the times where you're not seeing any gold and you're doing all the work and you're doing all the digging, and they get too distracted by shiny object syndrome. And I was afflicted by that myself for the first few years of my career. But I mean, I look at all the stuff that I used to do, bro, and like, I don't know, everything that I did kind of led me to the next thing. And I always it sounds so cliche, but I always just knew it, like literally. So I'm 30. I just turned 30 a month or two ago. And in between the time that I graduated college at 21 and 30 years old, so 9 years, we've moved almost 10 times in 9 years. And I have tried about 14 or 15 different career paths, businesses, side hustles, projects, etc. in that 9-year period. So there's a lot of stuff that I did for 3 months and stopped, 6 months and stopped, 9 months and stopped, lived here for 4 months and moved, lived here for 7 months and moved, moved into this place for a month and a half, moved again. Like, I just feel like I feel like I'm an all-in type of a person. And so if I'm not all in on something, I can't keep just doing it for the sake of doing it. But I feel like that's different than, like, I feel burnt out all the time now. Like, it's just part of, the stress and the anxiety of building a software startup and building a 7-figure agency and having a podcast and having 2 small kids at the house. Like, all that stuff adds up, man. And I feel stressed and anxious a lot of the times. And I'm constantly, trying to reset myself and make sure I'm taking care of my mental health. That's why I stay in the gym. I stay active. I do things on purpose to make sure that I'm actively combating those things. But like those things are not symptoms of doing the wrong thing in life. Those are just like, hey, I'm trying to accomplish something big and difficult. And bottom line is, along the way, there's going to be a lot of shit that you're going to have to wade through to get to the reward. That's different than like before when it was like, oh, I was selling this product and I was just like, I just don't like this. It's just not, I'm not vibing with it. It's not who I am. I don't really agree with it. I wouldn't buy it if I were the buyer. Like 3 months later, I quit because it just like didn't feel right to me. So like I said, I wish I had a more calculated answer for that. But for me, it was always just kind of a gut feeling. It was like, if I could look, to me, it's always a matter of looking into the future and asking myself, if 5 years from now, Travis will be thanking me for continuing doing this, or if he'll be saying, why did you continue doing that? And there's some things that was so clearly obvious to me that I would be like, hey, you know, why, like with door to door, for instance, like door to door it was and is a great way to make a living. Like 100% commission door to door sales. I know I have friends that make 200-300 grand a year working 20 to 30 hours a week. They work, you know, when other people are not working, they'll, you know, they have the whole morning to themselves, and then they go work from like 3 p.m. to 8 p.m., knock on some doors, sell a couple deals, they make fat commission checks, and then they come home. And that's a great way to make a living. You know, there's a lot of people that would love to make that kind of money in those kind of hours with that type of freedom. And I'm not knocking on door to door at all, you know, pun intended. But I knew at the time that if I looked into the future and saw myself at 33, 34, 35, and I was still knocking on doors, I knew that I wouldn't be happy with that version of myself. And so I was like, something's got to change. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know where it's going to be or what the heck is going to happen, but I know I have to make a change. And so for me, that's when I started diving into personal development, started reading books, listening to audiobooks, and that's when I came across podcasts and decided to start my own podcast at the time. And that kind of became a discovery tool, discovery method for me. But yeah, dude, I mean, for a little bit, it was just like, I knew that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, Travis was going to look back at that version and be like, man, you could have helped me out a little bit. You could have changed directions and made my life easier now. But now I have to do it now when I'm 34, 35. And like, that would have been more painful to do that at 34 than it would have been at 24. You know what I'm saying? So I was just trying to look at like, what is 10 years from now, Travis, going to think about this, and try to make my decisions based around the long game.
Complacency is definitely the killer. I think, can't remember who said this, but they said the greatest trick the devil ever played was do it, just not today. Right. Do it, just not today. And so I'm really embraced that taking action. That was, I think, if I have one regret in my life being 39, it was that I wish I would have started sooner. I was too complacent. I was just kind of coasting. And you talk about being uncomfortable and going through stressful times, but I feel like that's hard at first, but you almost, I don't know about you, but I almost get kind of like addicted to that feeling of being uncomfortable and being, you know, in these difficult situations. It almost becomes like an addiction in a way.
Anybody successful has, because it's the barrier to entry. You know, a lot of people think that uncomfortability or failure is like a worst case scenario thing that happens to some people that are not fortunate enough to be successful right off the bat. It's not. That's the ticket price.
Yeah.
Like, that's what you got to get into the gate with. That's where the game starts, is after a couple of failures, is after getting uncomfortable multiple times. It's after feeling fear and anxiety and pushing through and moving forward anyway. Like, that's where everything good in life happens. Everything good in life happens on the other side of fear and discomfort. That's why it's discomfort. Discomfort provides growth. Comfort provides complacency. So that's why I think people are unhappy when they chase comfort. You know, that's why like a hedonistic lifestyle or hedonistic philosophy was never something that took root in society as a whole, because chasing pleasure and comfort will only lead in, ironically, the opposite.
Yeah.
Whereas when you seek out struggle and discomfort and improvement, you know, those things always lead to the best things in life.
It gives you more purpose. It helps you get up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you would.
Yeah, because the bottom line is, dude, everybody's going to have problems. You can tell a lot by a person based on the problems that they have or they talk about. You know what I mean? Like if you're that's why, like, when you talk to a full grown adult and you're getting like teenage vibes from them, when you're like, why do you sound like a 15-year-old in high school? You know, they're just gossiping about this person at the gym, or they're talking crap about this other thing, or they're complaining about this person in traffic. And it's just like, oh, because you're still the person in high school. You never moved forward. You never took any step outside of your comfort zone. You've never grown into new problems. So you're still dealing with these 16-year-old problems. You're just an adult now. You know what I mean? Like like if you're dealing with all the stuff that you're dealing with as an entrepreneur, you don't really think about, you know, like, even when I'm stressed and anxious, like I don't really yell when I'm in traffic. You know what I mean? Like every once in a while I get pretty pissed, but way less often than I used to, you know, just because like my mind is reeling on so many other things. Like I'm thinking about like paying my employees. I'm thinking about like having a tough conversation with a vendor or client. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm thinking about transactions that will bring in tens of thousands of dollars to the business, or I'm thinking about pitching an investor that's looking at investing $500,000 or something like that. Like those are the problems that I'm thinking about in my brain. So like somebody cutting in front of me in traffic is just kind of like, oh, well, if that was that important to you, you know, go for it. It doesn't really matter. You know, like the human mind is built to seek out problems. Everybody's going to have problems. That's why mental health was never a thing prior to the first world that we live in the last 50 to 60 years. The reason mental health illness or mental illness right now is so prevalent is because we're a privileged society. That is a first world problem through and through. That's why America's got the worst, you know, mental health in the world, because we don't have anything else. We don't have any other problems.
Yeah.
We're not worried about where our next meal is coming from. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not worried about the lion attacking us anymore. We're not worried about these things, and that a lot of other countries are still worried about a lot of things that America's not worried about. Third world countries have to worry about other things. That's why they don't have time for it. Like that's why a lot of those people are happier. They live in a straw hut and you know, poop in a hole in the ground, and they're happier than half the Americans walking around driving their Lexus and living in their $1 million home in Orange County. You know what I'm saying? Because like these people's problems have become internal problems. And don't get me wrong, these are good things to have. This to me is like the evolution of society. Is like we have to solve basic need problems so that we can now solve mental health problems, so that we can continue to solve major earth problems and, you know, continue to create a better life for all of civilization in the next 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, in multi-generations from now. Like it's part of it. I'm not trash talking our progress as a society, but my point is like we're always going to find problems. So if you don't try to go find and solve big problems, then you're just going to be dealing with little problems, and little problems pay you a lot less than big problems pay you.
Good point.
And little problems will compound because you don't have something like money to solve the little problems with. Like now, if I have little problems, I take money and I solve the little problems with money, and money solves most little problems. You know, money solves all money problems, and then you're left with problems that money can't solve, is kind of the whole saying. Is like, but a lot of problems in life come back to money. So especially if they're the small problems, the little small problems, it's like, okay, well, let's put the kids in private school if they're getting in fights in public school. You know what I'm saying? Like money can solve a lot of those things. Or like, oh, I'm overweight and I don't know what to eat. Well, let's hire somebody to come over and cook for us. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I'm stressed out because, you know, because my wife is working a full-time job and she's doing laundry. Well, let's get somebody to come over and do our laundry for us. You know what I mean? Like money can solve a lot of those small problems. So like you're going to have problems either way. I choose the big problems because the big problems, if you can learn how to overcome those big problems, it pays a lot better and it helps you solve all the other small problems. And then you can get rid of all the problems that money can solve. And then at that point, you can focus on the problems that money can't solve, like mental health or, you know, fulfillment when it comes to family life or personal relationships and things like that. But even then, it certainly doesn't hurt some of those things.
Great points. And I think, you know, I see it the same way. And if we're going to get to that 6-figure or the 7-figure mark, what you're talking about is exactly what we do. You continuously solve bigger and badder and meaner problems, and then you hire other people to solve the smaller problems. I've spent thousands of hours editing videos and audio stuff. I don't do it anymore. You know, I have a great team that I hired to do that because I'm on to bigger problems. How do I find the next huge sponsor? How do I find the next big client? How do I raise my fees? How do I find a better ad deal? Right. So I'm kind of into a different level in my game. That's what drives you, right? Because it's a new challenge. If you're stuck in first grade your whole life, it's going to be a boring life.
Yeah.
I also think, Travis, and I want to get your opinion on this, that surrounding yourself with the right people, that's pretty important too. Because if you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of people complaining, high school style, and gossiping, you're going to get sucked into that. You want to surround yourself. You never want to be the smartest man or woman in the room, right? Mm-hmm. You sent out an email, because I'm part of your email list, I don't know, a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, something about joining a $100,000 mastermind, something like that. I don't remember what the exact tagline was, but joining a very expensive premium mastermind. What was going through your mind when you signed up for that premium mastermind?
Fear. I say that jokingly, but definitely fear was a big part of it. It took me like 3 or 4 months to make the decision. And frankly, when I look back at it now, like I would not counsel somebody that was in my position to do what I did, because I was only making like $500,000 that year. So investing $100K, that's 20% of my top line revenue, not my profit. So it was a massive investment for me to jump into the room. And I knew for a fact that I was like one of the poorest people there, because like I talked to one of the founders at the very beginning. I was like, hey man, because he invited me to join because I had interviewed him for my show. He interviewed me for his show. And we were talking, he invited me to join, and he was like, yeah, it's for 7-8 figure entrepreneurs who want to become 9-figure entrepreneurs. It's called the 100 Million Mastermind. So all the instructors in the group are doing 9 figures, and there's several members in the group that are doing 9 figures. And it's like for 7 and 8 figures that want to, move to the next level. And I was like, bro, I'm at 6 figures. I've not cracked 7. So I'm not qualified to be in this group. And he's like, don't worry, I'll let you in. And obviously that was part of a sales pitch, but they also did not extend that deal to a bunch of different people that were doing 6 figures still. So it was me, and I think 2 or 3 other people that were there that were doing 6 figures. Everybody else is doing 7 figures plus in a room of 100 people. So I knew for a fact I was one of the poorest people there. But exactly what we're talking about is exactly why I did it. Because the people that were in that group forced me to level up. That's the thing about really high level people, man, is when you get around them, you're either forced to level up or you're forced to get out.
Yeah.
Those people don't tolerate the immature high school mentality. If you're complaining about a traffic light, or you're complaining about this person at the gym who is mean or something, in the middle of while they're talking about this, $3 million deal that they just did yesterday, or like that something's about to fall apart that, is going to cost them 30% drop in revenue, which is, $24 million because they're doing 112 million this year. Like when you start talking to people who have problems like that, you start realizing again how teeny tiny your problems are. Like I'm looking at that 100 grand, like that's a problem. I lost 100 grand, like joining this, I invested 100 grand joining this freaking mastermind. That's a bunch of money. And you get in there and you talk to people who are like, yeah, I lost 3 million on that deal. And it's like, oh, gotcha. Like teeny tiny problems that I thought was a massive problem that it was really not. And the caveat to all of this, bro, is like, you got to know where you want to go. This kind of brings the conversation back to the beginning about clarity, because I never tell anybody that they have to have the same goals that I have. But what I do tell people is, if you do have the same goals that I have, and you're not willing to do all the stuff that I'm willing to do, then I'm going to win. You know what I'm saying? Like at some point, like the thing that pushed me over the edge with that 100K investment, and I renewed, by the way, in that group the second year. So I put another 100K in that group. So 200K all in on that group. The thing that pushed me over the edge was this one thought that I had. The one thought that I had was 100K is a lot of money to me right now, but I don't always want it to be a lot of money to me. At some point, I want to be able to look at 100K and go, it's just 100K.
Yeah.
What's that? That's walking around money. It's 100K. Who cares? Risk it. It's 100K. Whatever happens, happens. Spend 100K on these people. We do a lot of concierge bookings for like talent to go speak at events or speak on podcasts, whatever. And a lot of times, as part of their fee is you have to pay their private jet expenses. So you pay their speaking fee, but then you also have to pay them, to fly out to the event or whatever, which depending on the size of the jet can be anywhere from like $5,000 to $10,000 per flying hour. And so you're talking to people like that who spend $100,000 in jet fuel in a week. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the level that I'm thinking at or that I want to be thinking at. So like if I let $100,000 stop me right now, at what point am I going to not let it stop me? And how am I going to bridge that gap unless I go learn from people who've already walked over that bridge? You know what I'm saying? Like at some point, I'm going to have to think of it this way. And I've always been the type of person that, like, to me, if you're not willing to exchange large amounts of money to help save you time, then you have a complete misunderstanding of what the most valuable asset in life is. The most valuable asset in life is time. It's not money. Money is by definition replenishable. And it's a useless thing in and of itself. Or excuse me, not a useless thing, a worthless thing. Like a paper, if you're out in the middle of the wilderness and all you have is $100, it doesn't do anything. Like, money is only valuable because you can exchange it for real value. That's the only valuable thing about money, is the fact that you can exchange it for other things. So if I believe that time is the most valuable thing, then why would I not take a replenishable resource that in and of itself is completely worthless and use that resource to exchange it for the most precious and valuable resource that any of us have on earth, and that's time.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting there thinking like, well, I like money, I don't know about the time money thing. Okay, I'll prove it to you right now. Imagine you could trade places right now with Warren Buffett. You would be one of the top 5 richest people in the entire world. You'd have all of his money. His tens of billions of dollars are now yours. But you also take his age at 92. Do you take the deal?
No way. Not a chance.
Absolutely not.
Not a chance.
Warren Buffett would trade every dime that he is worth to switch spots with either one of me or you, Mark.
Yeah.
He didn't even start building his wealth till he was like 50. He was worth like $10 million at 48 or something like that. And in the last 40 years, he's gone from 10 million to 90 billion or whatever he's at now. But the point is, every single person that's listening to this right now would not trade places with Warren Buffett if they also had to accept his age and not just his money. That tells you right there. Time is the most valuable asset that we have, yet we hold it so tight. We hold it and the only reason that we think of it that way is because we're not confident in our ability to go get more of it. If you were confident in your ability to go get more money, then you would be totally fine with investing money in this thing and trying that thing out and getting more knowledge here and investing in this relationship. You'd be putting out money all the time because why? It doesn't matter, because next month I'm going to go make a bunch more of it. So if you're not confident in your ability to go generate more money right now, then you have to discipline yourself enough to do the action before achieving the result. And the action that you should take is investing your money into something that will allow you to shortcut the gap and the time that it takes for you to create a skill set that allows you to go acquire more money. Does that make sense? So like, if all you got to your name is 10 grand, it's like, and you're making $45,000 a year and it's taking you 8 years to save up 10 grand. That's why you're sitting there thinking like, man, 10 grand's a lot of money, man. It took me 8 years to save this up. I don't have the discretionary income. I don't live over my means. I make $45,000 a year. I'm hoping to get a raise this year, hopefully to $48,000, and that'll allow me to save $74 per month more. It's like, you don't have a spending problem. You have an earning problem. You don't know how to go earn more money. So exchange as much money as you have now to create a skill set that allows you to have the confidence knowing that if you lost the 10 grand today, next month you can go generate another 10 grand. Like, I know now today, if I lost everything that I have, I know that I could build up a minimum 6-figure business in the next year, probably 7-figure business in the next year. Because it's not about the money that I have in my account. It's about the knowledge that I have now, the network that I have, the relationships that I have, because I've continuously invested in myself at levels that scare the crap out of me and my wife. So like, you look at it now, bro, it's basically like $350,000 in the last 5 years since I've started in the online space that I've invested into coaches, masterminds, courses, events, travel, getting myself to people that can help fill my brain with knowledge that I don't have or give me opportunities that are not in front of me. You have to be willing to sacrifice the money that you have to save yourself time. That's what coaches masterminds are for. If I can go to a group and I learn one thing that might have taken me 9 months to learn, I save myself a total of 9 months. How much money is that worth when it comes to my time? You know what I mean? Like,
it's
that
a huge
only
deal.
increases.
It's like 1 to 2% of your life.
Right.
Maybe.
I mean, it only increases as you go too. Because 5 years ago, my time was nowhere near as valuable as it is now.
Yeah.
So in 10 years from now, I hope that my time in 10 years from now is way more valuable than it is now. And it doesn't increase linearly. It increases exponentially. Right? So you look at someone like a Joel Marion, who's one of the founders of that group that I was in, or that I'm in. 10 years ago, nobody knew who he was. Now, he just sold his company for multi-9 figures. He has a 20 million person email list, a really popular podcast, a ton of relationships with really high net worth and incredible individuals. And he himself, his net worth is really extremely high. He's invested in over like 50 different companies. He's got a bunch of different real estate investments, and he's 40. His time now is infinitely more valuable than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Because he continually invested in himself and made himself a more valuable person to the point where now, like, he can go earn more money than any person, than like 99.99% of the population could. If he lost everything tomorrow, he could go earn another $1 million by the end of the month. Just because he has the knowledge, the skill set, and the network. Because he's taken the time to exchange the worthless garbage in your bank account that loses value every single year in exchange for something that's actually valuable, which is the skill set and the knowledge and the network to be able to go create something for yourself and have the confidence to do it over and over and over again. So that you can continually have this flywheel of investing into yourself, making money, invest it, making money, invest it, make money, invest it. Don't just sit on it. I know that was a long answer, but
it's really good. And I'm kind of curious your take on this too. I was sitting down having a conversation with my wife because I'm pretty new. I left my day job 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago. So
really?
I'm
Nice,
pretty
man.
fresh.
Congrats.
Took me a long time to get there. Took me about 4 years. I probably could have spent the money up front, joined some masterminds, joined some groups, invested in myself and gotten there faster, but I didn't. Whatever. We got that. We're here now.
You're here now.
We're
That's
here
all that
now,
matters.
baby. We're here. So left the day job and I was talking to my wife about plans. We're making this much money. I want to spend this much money, put it back into the business, ad run, things like that. And she's like, she just had this look of amazement. Like, you're going to spend how much money on doing what? Well, what about this? What about all these other things? And I was like, but you don't understand. What we do is we prove concept. We funnel money. We put $1 in, we get $2 back. And then we take that $2, put it in, we get $4 back, right? And I could see, she got there with me, but she's not, she doesn't have that entrepreneurial risk type of mentality.
Yeah.
When you had committed to doing this, what was that conversation like with your wife?
Yeah, that's a really good question, bro. And I'm glad you asked it. It's all about the vision and the mission. Everything pales in comparison to the vision that I have for me and my family and the mission that I've enlisted my wife into. Like, we're on the same path. We're on the same mission. So does it make her nervous? Like, she's not stoked when I go drop 100K on a mastermind. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, she wasn't like, yippee, like, let's put all of our money in this thing. Cause dude, we're at literally at the time we had I think we had just had our son. Yeah, we had just had our son. And we had not found out that we were pregnant yet with our daughter. So we just had our son. Her brother is living with us in our 3-bedroom condo that we had, because we downsized when I quit door to door to go full time. We downsized. We had this like 3,600 square foot house with a pool and all this stuff, and then it's just like I got rid of that. We downsized, became renters again, and started renting this 3-bedroom condo, 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom condo. We had 2 big dogs. I have a 90-pound German Shepherd and a 170-pound Great Pyrenees. We had our son, we had her brother, me and my wife all living in a 1,200 square foot apartment. We're driving a used Camry and a used 2007 Tundra, which are, by the way, still both of the vehicles that we're driving. They're just both paid off now. And that was when I dropped $100K into a mastermind.
Wow.
So I'm not like driving a Lambo, living in a mansion, putting $100K in a mastermind. Like, I'm talking the max level that I could invest in myself, where most people would take that money and go buy a Lambo or go put a massive down payment on a beautiful home. Like, so I'm saying that to give a lot of credit to my wife right now, to say that like, the fact that we were both bought into the vision, that's what makes it worth it. Because she's on board for the things that I'm talking about. So when I say like, hey, this $100K is supposed to get us closer to this vision where we never have to worry about anything. Like, if the vision's big enough, the minute details, the 20 grand here, 40 grand here, because like you said, ideally you put in $1 and you get $2 out. But what happens when you put in $1 and you get 30 cents out? You can only do that for so long.
Right.
And that's part of marketing. You know, like every marketing campaign has waste until you find what works. You know what I mean? So like, there's going to be waste along the way. It's not going to be as linear as you hope it's going to be. There's going to be up, 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 and then down, 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 and then up, and then down, and then up, and then down, and then down, 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 and then up, up, up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it's going to be a little bit like that until you hit this inflection point where you start getting that hockey stick because you finally got enough data to learn it all. But like, for a while, it's not going to be that way. And so if you only have buy-in on like, trust me, we're going to spend this 10 grand and we're going to get 20 out of it. It's like, well, what happens when you spend the 10 grand and you get 4 grand out of it? You know what I'm saying? Like that, like that's not enough to get the buy-in. The buy-in can't be for that. The buy-in has to be for this grand vision of what life is going to look like once we figure this out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Like this is the lifestyle that we're going to live. You know, imagine when we're, you know, using words like that. Imagine when we're flying in a private jet to the most pristine all-inclusive resort in Cabo with our kids like in the jet with us and our family flying and our best friends, and we're going to this resort and we paid for everybody because we just want everybody to come out and have a good time and relax and have state-of-the-art food with beautiful views and be able to enjoy life on a level that most people will never be able to experience. Like, imagine that. What kind of money do you have to be making in order to do a trip like that? To drop $200K on like private jet flights and resorts and stuff like that and be like, it's $200K. Who cares about $200K if everybody's having a good time? You know what I'm saying? Like and again, I'm not telling people that they have to have the same vision as I have, but if you're trying to get enrollment from your significant other, if you're listening to this, and this, by the way, goes for your team, the people that you're hiring, the employees that you're bringing on, you have to paint a big enough vision that they can see their vision fitting inside of your vision. That's what enables the sacrifice in the meantime. People don't like sacrificing if they don't know nothing, if they don't know anything's coming at the other end. You know what I mean? So to me, it's just a matter of, hey, get really clear on like, this is where we're headed. This is the type of lifestyle that we're building and working toward. And in the meantime, we're going to have to make some uncomfortable decisions. We're going to have to sacrifice more than most people are willing to sacrifice. But if you want to live a life that nobody else can live, you have to do the things that nobody else is willing to do. And that's part of the game. And if you look at every extremely successful person, I'm not talking about like, again, it's all comes down to what you want to do and what your goals are. Because there's plenty of people who have lifestyle businesses. They make 7 figures a year. They make like $1.6 million. They profit 500 grand. And they make 50 grand a month, and they live in a nice part of town. They have kids in great schools. They drive nice cars, and that's great for them. But they're never going to buy a private jet. They're never going to own an island or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So like, there's levels to it, and you have to get clarity around which one you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
But my point is like, whatever that is, like that's the conversations that you're having. It's not about like this 10 grand that I want to spend on this thing, or this 25 grand, or this 3 grand. It's not about those numbers randomly on a short timeline or short timetable, because those will never make sense to anybody that's not entrepreneurial minded. They'll never make sense. It's about painting the picture to be like, this is what life is going to be like once we get this thing nailed down. And it might take me 5 years, honey. It might take me 10 years. It might take me another 15 years to get there, maybe even 20. But the bottom line is, like, in 20 years, we fast forward. Do you want to be retirement age, 65, 70 years old? Do you want to get up to that point and worry about where your next paycheck is coming? Or do you want to get to that point, travel the world, take our kids with us, like go see places that nobody else has ever been to? Like, what do you want? Like, what version of life do you want? Because in the meantime, we're going to have to work toward that goal. And it's got to be a big enough vision that gets them not only like on board, but excited to, quote unquote, allow you to do the things that you need to do and to support you in the things that you feel need to happen for the business to be successful. Hope that helps.
Bro, we got podcaster Travis in the house today, right? Because what you're talking about, painting that vision, painting that picture, like that's what marketing is. That's what storytelling is. That's what podcasting is, really. And it does bring me back to a conversation that I have with my wife. It was similar to that. Yours is more nuanced and fleshed out, but we did kind of a similar exercise. Said, what do you want out of life? Like all these things that we want, we're not going to be able to get that doing average stuff.
Right.
We need to do, we need to take above average action to get above average.
And by the
results.
way, my rule is always delay gratification. I think that's the most underrated common denominator with all successful people is they learn to delay gratification better than anybody.
Yeah.
However, it's important to go get a taste sometimes, because some people will look at that like I've just known that I want big things for a long time. Like I don't know why. That's just kind of how I'm wired. It's probably something to do with like, you know, my childhood or how I was raised or some unconscious thing that I don't know about. But either way, that's just who I am and that's how I'm wired. That's my drive. But some people might look at that and go like, well, I don't need that stuff. I don't need the 5-star resort. I don't need the jet. I don't need the fancy car. I don't need any of that stuff. Like, I just want the white picket fence and the 3 kids and the, you know what I'm saying? Like the, be part of the PTA and whatever. Like, that's like what they're talking about. But I think it's important to sometimes allow yourself, if you can afford to. I never am a fan of doing these kinds of things unless you have the ability to do them. But it's important every once in a while to go get a taste of it. So like recently we went to this mastermind in Cabo with Grant Cardone. It was $25K for 2 days. That was it. 2 days in Cabo, $25K. And of course, Grant picks like the #1 resort in Cabo to do it at. And it's an all-inclusive resort. So you can't like do the cheap thing and get an Airbnb nearby the resort and like drive in for the masterminding, because they won't let you on the property unless you're staying there, because it's all-inclusive. So we have to book a room. The cheapest room that we could find was $1,500 a night staying there. That was the cheapest room. And that was part of the room block for the mastermind. So it's a $2,000 nightly room, cheapest room. And we got $500 off a night because it was part of the room block for the mastermind group. That's where we stayed. But I will say it was uncomfortable. Honestly, it was uncomfortable to like spend that much money on that kind of stuff. Now, for me, it was a business expense, and the money did end up coming back to me with the people that I met there. They literally directly bought services from me that paid it off within 3 or 4 months of going, which I figured would happen, and the reason I'm justified the excuse. But I will say that coming back from that gave me and my wife a more clear understanding of truly what we want to be able to do in life. Because in some sense, ignorance is bliss when it comes to some of those things. It's just like, you don't want that because you don't know how awesome it is. You know what I mean? Like, well, I don't need that. I don't want that. You know what I mean? It's like, are you sure? Because it was pretty sweet. You know, like it was insanely beautiful. The food was incredible. The experiences were crazy. And I was working half the time and I still got to enjoy it at that level. You know what I mean? It was just like, this is the type of vacation that I want to take. You know what I mean? Like if I'm traveling to a country, I want to go see the country and I want to stay in the country, and that's different. But if I'm going to like relax on vacation, that's what I want to do. And I want to be able to drop 15, 20 grand for a week and not think twice about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to have to save up all year for that. I want to just be like, hey, let's go to Cabo in a couple of weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like my point is like, sometimes you got to go touch it. You got to go feel it. You got to go test drive the Lambo or whatever your dream car is. You got to go do a tour of the new housing development in town that are all multi-million-dollar homes, or like custom homes that are around your area that you're like, wow, those are beautiful. Go walk them, touch them, feel them, look at the pool. Imagine yourself sitting there smoking a cigar on your patio after a hard day's work, or a not hard day's work because your team's taking care of the most of your business for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, do those things, because especially if you're trying to get buy-in from somebody, let them go touch those things. Let them go feel those things. Let them understand why you're pushing so hard, why you're taking these big risks, why you're willing to do the things that you're willing to do. It helps tremendously.
Well, to your point, I know my vision has changed just throughout the process of building a business, right? You start with one goal, and then once you reach that goal, you're like,
Same.
I think I want a little bit more.
Totally.
When I first started my business, my goal was to retire on a beach at age 60. But at this point, I don't think I could ever retire, right? It's you just get addicted to like the game of leveling up and solving difficult problems. And I don't necessarily know that I wish that on my worst enemy, because I don't know if it's I don't feel like I could ever sleep. You know what I mean? I just got to keep solving more problems. It's a kind of a cool mentality, I think. Yeah,
totally. I'm on the same page, man. Yep.
No doubt. So, Travis, we're going to start winding it down here. I want to get to the rapid fire section, so I hope you're ready. We're going to get hot and heavy in the rapid fire here with Mr. Travis Chappell. But Travis, before we go, where's the best place we can find you?
TravisChappell.com is a great spot. CHAPPELL. I'm relaunching my podcast. We're rebranding and relaunching it here in the next few days, or in the next couple of months. So I'm pretty excited about that. If you're listening to this, just search Apple Podcasts or Spotify for Travis Chappell, and I'm sure my podcast will pop up, whatever we end up naming it. We haven't even decided on a name yet, but it's going to be a big rebrand, relaunch, and I'm really excited for what is in store for that coming up. So TravisChappell.com, all my social links, everything you can find over there.
Dig it. And of course, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode in the intro, Travis is the founder of Guestio, which is the best place to find great guests for your podcast, or to find podcasts to be a guest on. So if you haven't checked it out yet, check it out. Free to poke around, see what's up. That's Guestio.com. I'll make it easy. I'll put a link below. You know what I'm saying? We'll put a link below.
Sick.
Cool. Travis, let's get into it. What is the scariest movie you've ever seen?
Scariest?
Yeah.
The Conjuring.
I don't know why. I love that question. If you could sit next to anybody on an airplane, who would you sit next to?
Mark Wahlberg.
Where are you going to be in 10 years?
That is a question I've been asking myself a lot lately. Probably doing the same exact thing I'm doing right now. Not like the business I want to be exited from within about 5 years. I'd like to have an exit. But the podcast I'm very bullish on. I'm very bullish on like long-term attention, growth, branding, and building an audience. So probably sitting in, hopefully a much nicer, beautiful, state-of-the-art studio, rather than my makeshift pop-up travel studio here. But yeah, podcasting just with a much bigger audience and a nicer studio.
Double down, baby. I like that. As someone who has a makeshift studio going around, I share a similar dream. Silver dream. Love that. If you're on death row, what would you order for your final meal?
I just ate at this place called Delilah's in Vegas. It's in the Wynn, and there's a crazy wait list. You have to wait months, but happened to know a guy who knew a guy who got us in, and the steak was incredible. Appetizers were incredible. That'd probably be my last meal if I could get my hands on it.
I'm getting hungry.
But a good steak is really the answer.
If you could be any type of animal, what would you be?
Bald eagle.
It's a good one. I had Chris Doe on the podcast recently. He was the first one to pick a bird of prey. So you're number 2 on the bird of prey.
Hey, there we go.
Good company there.
Yeah.
Final question. If you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, what would you say? It would fall on deaf ears no matter what I said. I would have zero credibility with myself 10 years ago. So it wouldn't even be worth saying anything. I haven't heard that answer, but I like it. Travis, thanks for joining the show today, brother.
Appreciate you, Mark. Thanks a lot.
Bam. That's a wrap. Thanks for listening to the episode today. Travis killed it. Absolutely killed it. And I just want to reiterate that point about painting a vision. Painting a vision for where you want to go and letting other people buy into that. I especially love the fact that he paints his team into that vision. And frankly, you can paint your customers and your clients into this vision as well. The more people that are buying into your vision for your future, the better. And the people that don't believe it, limiting beliefs have no room in my life. I won't take it. I won't stand for it. Limiting beliefs, scratch, pushing them out the back door. Cannot have it. So don't sell yourself short. You have greatness inside of you. All you got to do is continue to take the action. So thanks for listening to the show today. If you have not yet, this is the time to smash subscribe. Fresh episodes coming to you on the regular. And in the meantime, make it an awesome day. Go out, continue to take action. I'll catch you next time here on the After Hours Entrepreneur. Peace.